Family and friends, we begin our service in Ron's memory. I'm Rabbi Eddie Sukal of the Shul, and I'll be joined today by Rabbi Zach Truboff of Ohev Tzedek Cedar Sinai Synagogue, formerly, of course, the Warrensville Center Synagogue. Shiviti Adonai l'negdi tamid ki mini bal emot. Lachen sameach libi v'yagel kivodi, af bisari ishkon lavetach. I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side. I shall not be moved. And therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure. I know that you will not abandon me to death, O God, nor will you let your faithful see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. It seems paradoxical that our tradition has us begin a funeral or memorial service with a psalm that speaks of enduring happiness, that speaks of fullness of joy, when in fact the mood is exactly the opposite today. But we begin this way to remind ourselves that even in grief there is gratitude. And today and the days ahead are days of grief and crying and mourning. But they are also days in which we reach deep into our souls to find the strength to offer our thanks for the gift of Ron's life, for all that was good and rich in his life. We are taught that our days are 70, or perhaps by reason of strength 80 years. And yet 1,000 years in God's sight, they are but as a yesterday once it is past. Teach us therefore to number our days, the psalmist says, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. And may your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. To offer words of tribute to their father, I'd like to call Ilana and Daniel and Carol to come forward.
I was walking in the woods the morning of my dad's passing, and a song came to me. It is crystal clear to me that my dad sent me this song, and I want to share it with you. It is The Circle Game by Joni Mitchell. Yesterday, a child came out to wonder, caught a dragonfly inside a jar, fearful when the sky is full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return. We can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle game. Then the child moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over 10 clear frozen streams. Words like "when you're older" must appease him, and promises of someday make his dreams. 16 springs and 16 summers gone now, cartwheels turn to car wheels through the town. And they tell him, take your time, it won't be long now, till you drag your feet to slow the circle down. So the years spin by and the boy is 20, though his dreams have lost some grandeur coming true. There'll be new dreams, maybe better dreams, and plenty, before the last revolving year is through. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return. We can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle game.
Ronald B. Peltz, Ronnie, or as I knew him, Dad. The rabbi will mention my father was a very generous man, and he provided us with everything. But there are gifts my father gave that are priceless, that I wanted to share with you today. My father gave me the gift of laughter. As a boy, we would sit, and on Saturday afternoons, we would watch Jerry Lewis and Martin movies over and over again. There's not one I hadn't seen with him. That gift that he gave me made me want to make other people laugh. I could make him bust up even when he was in the hospital and in hospice. As a child, I could not breathe because of asthma and allergies. So my mother would take my father, he would take me to a desert. And my dad was like, desert? Vegas, it's in a desert. And I remember on those trips that I had a slot machine as a babysitter, a cocktail waitress, a keno girl. But he also took me to see the greatest, the legends, Jerry Lewis, Sammy Davis Jr., Rich Little. These are gifts and memories I will treasure forever. The gifts he gave me live on today with my relationships with my children and my family. Alyssa, every time we dance to That's Amore, that's a gift from my father. Max, the lights and the action of the casino that you love so well, that's a gift from my father. I'm not so sure that's such a good gift, but it's from Dad. Michaela, every time you saw Papa, you had to do a monologue. Your gift of acting and loving to perform comes from him. To Ilana and Carol, the gift he gave us is our daily talks now. We communicate on a regular basis regardless of what topic matter is, and I look forward to our calls every day. Mom, just look around. His gift is everyone that's here. We all came together. My dad's greatest gift was love and family, and you can feel it here today. So thank you, Dad. And this one's for you. Lady!
I got my dad's bad eyesight. I suppose as my dad's child, I should know best how to remember my father. But everyone here knew my dad at different times for different reasons. I certainly didn't know my dad for his first 30 years, but I know he had some fantastic friends. My final words to my father were, "Thank you, Dad. You gave me everything I ever needed, and I love you." These 3 sentences reflect how my dad lived his life, with a purpose, with generosity, and with love. These past few weeks, Ilana, Danny, my mom, and I have spent many hours together talking about our shared lives and now our separate lives. It is true that different children have different relationships with the same parent, but I feel now I've finally put together a complete picture of who my dad was to each of us. He gave us everything we needed: a curious intellect, a desire to see the world, and a continuing belief that education is the most important thing. And above all else, a strong value that your children and your grandchildren are your biggest love and your biggest legacy. I look at my children and my nephews and my nieces, and I see my dad's legacy. So, Dad, enjoy yourself. I know you're hanging with your favorites: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Menachem Begin, Ronald Reagan, and Richard Nixon. But I know you're also playing cards with Harvey, Pudgy, Danny, Carl, Marv, Roz, Bill, and Vicky. Maybe you can introduce them all. And in your immortal words, that's it.
Birth is a beginning and death a destination, yet life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back, we hope, to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey. For birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage. I'd like to call upon Rabbi Truboff to share the 23rd Psalm with us.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar. A song of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Binot esher yar b'tzeini, al mei menuchot yinaleni. God causes me to lie down in lush pastures. God leads me beside tranquil waters. Nafshi yeshoveh v'yancheni v'maglei tzedek l'man shemo. God restores my soul and guides me in righteous paths for God's name's sake. Gam ki elech begeit salmavet lo yirara ki atza imadi shivtecha mishantecha hema yinachamuni. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you, God, are with me. Your scepter and staff, they comfort me. Ta'arach lefanei shulchan neged tzorai tishanta v'shemen roshi kosi rivaya. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Ach tov v'chesed yirtifuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti b'veit Adonai li'orech yamim. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of my days. The conclusion of Psalm 23 makes the declaration that a life lived well is a life connected to God. And the specific reference here is that a life lived well brings one in to dwell in God's house for the length of their days. In the context of the psalm, it's meant to be a reference to the temple in Jerusalem, the one place where God's presence could be felt most deeply on earth. But for us, living thousands of years later, it's also a reference, I believe, to the connection that we all have to our places of worship, our synagogues. And Ron had a connection to our synagogue that extended over the length of his days, going back through his family, their connections to Zativ, the founders of the shul, the Warrensville Center Synagogue, and now our current shul. Ron had this lifelong connection, and the community meant so much to him. When I first came almost a decade ago, I remember Ron welcomed me, and the moment you meet Ron, you can see that he's a character. You see he has this sort of larger-than-life mentality, but he always encouraged me. He was always heartened by the growth within the shul, and he just appreciated that we were able to continue to go Mechayel El Chayel from strength to strength. He was a board member, and he just loved seeing the shul go on and not just survive, but thrive. And it's a special merit to have that kind of connection to a synagogue going back decades. And not just somebody who came in and over a few years got involved, but somebody who feels a lifelong connection. And it's, to a certain extent, it's the place they know that they can always come back to, and it feels like home. Their soul feels at home because it's the place their parents were and their grandparents were. That's the kind of connection that he had, and I know our community, Ron's presence will very much be missed.
Diane, to you and to your children, and to all the family, to Tama and Phyllis. There will be time in the days ahead to share memories and stories and anecdotes. There will be time to laugh together and to cry together. The coming days will be days filled with memories. I want to, in just a few minutes, recall some of the most important parts of Ron's life and some of the interesting aspects of his life. And so I begin by mentioning, as everyone here no doubt knows, politically he was a lifelong conservative. His relationships in politics, particularly in conservative politics, led him to meet many people, and he shared that with all of you. Ilana, you said you sat next to Ronald Reagan at a kind of a meet and greet. You were a kid. He met Menachem Begin on a trip to Israel and began a years-long correspondence with Begin. And yet, despite his conservative views, he took a free speech case to the Ohio Supreme Court. It's a remarkable paradox. It was a free speech case involving, if I'm remembering correctly, political signs in people's front yards. I don't want to blame Ron for all those signs today, but it was when he was living in South Euclid and he took that case to the Ohio Supreme Court. And I think that case, in some ways, and him pursuing it relentlessly as he did, parallel with his otherwise conservative political views, tells us a lot about who he was. A man of intellect, successful attorney, sharp mind. In fact, Diane, he met you while he was in law school and you were an undergraduate student. And he believed in what was right. He had a great Jewish sense of tzedakah, of righteousness, and of charity. And he took all of that and transmitted those values to those who knew him, most especially to his 3 children. Diane, as you said to Ron, Ilana, and Danny and Carol, they were rock stars. He considered them a kind of personal brain trust he had created. And he reveled in your successes. He so enjoyed your accomplishments and was so immensely proud of you. And he was especially proud and grateful to all of you that you brought grandchildren for him into the world. 9 wonderful grandchildren, Michael and Bradley, Alyssa, Max, and Michaela, and Kate and Allison and Charlie and Jane. It's true that every grandparent loves their grandchildren, but Ron did it in a special way that was so him. And he saw the grandchildren as an extension of the brain trust that he created with his children. Ron had challenges in life. His mother died when he was a teenager. That's no doubt partly what drove him to succeed and to push himself. It drove him to a self-discipline in his learning and his work. As Rabbi Truboff has mentioned, he had a lifelong connection and was a lifetime trustee of Warrensville Center Synagogue, which ultimately, of course, became Ohev Tzedek Cedar Sinai. All of you talked about the travel that Ron led you on through the years, all kinds of adventures through this country and Israel, through Europe, teaching you things, showing you things, as Danny has mentioned, maybe not all of it 100% kosher, but still shared with you experiences, created opportunities for all of you. He made sure all of you had access to the best education so that you could achieve and attain your goals. He had a great love of Israel. He was truly an Ohev Yisrael, one who loves Israel, which means every Jew and every Israeli, and more than that, or in addition to that, he loved the state of Israel. And he was proud to be a Jew, and he was proud to be associated with the state of Israel and to support it. And he had one particular scientific area of interest, somewhat unusual. He was involved in the search for life outside of our universe and off of our planet. He believed in it. He was involved with SETI, the Carl Sagan program to search for extraterrestrial life. It's a curiosity to me. It strikes me as an unbelievably optimistic, open viewpoint to have. For all of you now, you grieve in a darkened world. And we who have mourned understand that in your tears there is loneliness. In your silence there is lamentation. We gather with you to remember Ron, to pay tribute to his life. We gather with you to comfort you, to embrace you with our hugs and our love and our care, that this might be a source of comfort. And we gather with you not only that we might comfort you, but to call upon God on your behalf and to ask God to be with you and to comfort you. Ron, as your husband and father and grandfather and brother and in-law, in all the relationships that he had, Ron had a love for all of you that united you in life and brought you together, and that love is a love that death does not and cannot sever. That love remains in your hearts forever. So we grieve, and we grieve deeply, and we mourn and wail. And we also are grateful for the companionship that we shared with Ron along life's path, for the gifts of his heart and his mind, and all those things that he did that brought joy and happiness into your lives and left a smile on your face. All of these are now a precious remembrance. Many times in his life, Ron uttered this phrase, and it's a phrase that I close with. it is appropriate to, in just a few words, sum up the quality of this life so well lived. A good job well done. Please rise. El Malay Rachamim Shochein Bamromi Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina Im Kedoshim Utehorim Kizohar Harakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat ben Yomin ben Yaakov Rivka Shehalach le'olamo Began Eden Tehei Menuchato Ana Bal Harachamim Hastirei habeseter kanafecha leolamim vayitzror bitzror hacharim unishmata Bal harachamim yastirehu beseter kanafecha leolamim vayitzror bitzror hachaim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Benjamin ben Yaakov Verivka, to Ronald B. Peltz, for he has now entered eternity. O God of mercy, we pray, may he find refuge in your eternal presence, and may his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance, and we say, Amen. Please be seated. Following our burial service at Mount Olive Cemetery, the family will return to observe the week of Shiva at the home of Jamie and Dan Peltz, 4009 Orangewood Drive, in Orange Village. This is the section of Orangewood Drive that's easiest to get to off of Harvard, but you can also access it from Lander Road and go around. Shiva will be observed this afternoon, and then again beginning tomorrow evening through next Wednesday. For those who may wish to honor Ron's memory with a charitable contribution, the family suggests that you direct your generosity to the Hospice of the Western Reserve. Zichrono livracha. Ron's memory will forever be a blessing to all of us who knew him and loved him. Amen.